Because when I'm teaching accessibility to my students, one of the things we love to talk about is, here's something that was put in as an accessibility feature, but it really benefits everyone.
Yeah.
And it starts off from things as simple as like the ramps, on the sidewalks were put in for ADA compliance, but who here uses them for strollers or for your bikes or different things like that? We talk about, on websites, it drives me crazy when the buttons don't click unless you hit that little tiny circle. So, I bring in personal stories about my parents or my relatives or even myself because I get vestibular issues. And we're all like, yeah, we all hate that.
We do.
We all hate that. And so, these changes that we're making, they're actually enhancing the experience for everyone.
Yeah.
It's just disproportionately enhancing it for smaller groups of students.
Yeah, especially the description of diagrams you just mentioned. It's not only benefit who use screen readers who cannot visually see the picture, but also for someone who cannot understand the diagram well.
It also slows us down.
I know. So
Yeah, I'm
'Cause we're
probably
like
talking fast again. I'll slow down.
No, I'm not talking
Yeah.
about that. I'm
Yeah.
talking about it's so easy as a professor to throw up a rather complex diagram and go like, this is the internal architecture of a Django application, click next slide, right? But if then you slow down, and so even for a person who can see the slide and and see all the little angles, that I didn't spend enough time on the concept, right? Because I think that I've captured the concept in a picture. I think the picture is something you can look at and internalize, but really for every student, I went through it too fast because I think I have this great picture. And so it slows us both down. If I'm teaching live in a class, and no one is sort of has any visual impairment to my knowledge in that class, I still am going to narrate the picture.
Yeah, but you and I think we're going to have an interesting, disagreement when we come to some of these things, because I know that you're trying to take out almost all images and pictures, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious how that goes because, I for one am horrible at art, right? Like I'm not a visual person, which is funny because I teach web design, so I don't grade on color schemes. But there are other people who that's their skill. Their skill is the ability to convey complex information through a graphic or a feeling. And so I don't want to downplay some things that are out there that are incredible and not use them. So this debate between should we use them and augment them with detailed explanation versus not use them at all.
So for me, I don't eliminate them all. I just make sure that every diagram that I put in my class has a very good reason to be a diagram, right? I mean, if I can't express it any other way, and then I have to narrate that diagram. And so it's not so much of eliminating diagrams, it's looking at each diagram and saying, is that valuable? Is that diagram, as a diagram, adding value to the class?
yeah, what Chuck just said remind me of the alternative text writing jam in my working place. So we gather a group of people, sit down together, spend 2 hours together writing alt text for the content we have because the crowdsourcing approach is very powerful. 10 people can get 100 images done within 2 hours. But when we write the alt text, we always ask the question, how necessary is the image here in this chapter, in these slides? And then first we try to figure out the answer by watch the lecture video or contact the instructor. But then we realized if this picture is not very necessary here, why was it here in the first place? So
Well,
It was there 4 years ago and I never took it out.
the other problem I have is now that I'm into alt text, my alt text is too long.
I
and
know.
It's like,
Yeah.
wait a sec.
Which is funny because there's actually something out there called the alt text decision tree that helps you walk through what you should be putting in and what you shouldn't. And it seemed like such a silly thing when I first saw it. I was like, now I'm like, oh, this is very valuable.
Right.
Because
and so until you walk the walk.
It's not my skill set. And so this idea, you said you get this group of 10 people together, it worries me, even though I'm in artificial intelligence, it worries me when I hear people think, oh, we'll get machines to automate the alt text. Because it's just not good. And again, we need people from all these diverse different backgrounds to give their interpretation of what that image really meant when they looked at it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to get the same bias in the automatically generated alt text that we get when one person does it by themselves.
And when we think about automatic generation, I go back to someone's thinking about the legal issues, not thinking about the user's experience.
Yeah, our conversation about alt text just remind me, like nowadays in social media, like they have auto-generated alt text, but you can also choose to overwrite the auto-generated alt text. But it's very different from the educational setting, right? Like the image you post on social media, most of the time it's, how to describe that? It's like less serious than educational images, and when we describe like images in educational settings, we don't want to give too much information to confuse people, to invite further confusions. So yeah, it's a very challenging topic that I've been working on with my colleagues in AI, and we're trying to like create some guidelines, handbooks to educate people how to write alt text, but it's still a long way to go. Yeah.
I think ultimately we may need sort of a different technical solution. Alt text may not be sufficient ultimately. Because there's like a description tag or something.
It's called descriptive. In Twitter, it's add a descriptive text, which is not turned on by default, which drives me crazy. Because again, we're not setting the norms that this should be the norm.
But people also argue about what is that a URL or is that supposed to be words? I mean, and it's kind of neat that that's the problem that we're facing. Right.
If people are debating it, I'm happy to have people debate. It's just I'm unhappy when people don't know it exists at all. I just figured out how to add alt text to Facebook images like very recently, and it is not intuitive.
Oh yeah, you have to post first, and then you find your post, and
then you edit it.
And then for me, even though someone tells me what they think the description is supposed to be, I wish I could now talk to some blind people, blind students, and have them tell me like, this is what I need, right? So for me, it's an iterative engineering process. We can imagine a solution. We can build the solution, and then I want to hear whether it's good or not, right? And that's I think the hardest part is that we sort of try ideas and sort of launch them and get so little feedback from them, and so we don't know about how I am describing this diagram. Was it good for the students that I intended it to be? And we just get so little feedback.
And you could also hit up students from places where the internet access is really slow. So alt text isn't just for people who can't see the picture; it's for people who can't download the image because they don't have the bandwidth.